Welcome to this episode of the People Dividend Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Horne, and today we're diving into a topic that is really close to my heart and I know is close to the hearts of many of our listeners, and that is finding out what lights you up in your career. And not only that, but how do we navigate this ever changing world of work? My guest today, someone I'm honored to have in the virtual studio, is Mary Olson-Menzel, a career and workplace success expert, executive coach, and author of the national bestseller, What Lights You Up? Illuminate your path and take the next big step in your career. It's a title that just makes me happy saying it. It's a great title. What lights you up? Mary has over 30 years of leadership experience across industries like media, healthcare, technology, and even the NFL for all of you NFL fans out there. She's here to share her insights on thriving in today's job market, staying relevant in the age of AI, and finding purpose and passion in your career. Mary Olson-Menzel, welcome to the People Dividend.
Thank you, Mike. I'm so happy to be here.
Mary, this best-selling book that you have, it's all about helping people discover what lights them up. So, not to get too personal, but let's start with you. What lights you up and how did you discover it?
Mike, so many things light me up. I'm very, very lucky. But one of the things that lights me up is giving people hope and direction in their careers and helping them see the greatness in themselves.
Boy, that's so important, that quality of hope, isn't it? I mean, I think about that in the consulting and coaching work that I do. I mean, that's one of the gifts that I bring because people often are coming into a situation where they feel that they're desperate, they haven't been successful, they're a fake. And to bring that sense of hope is really so important. And I combine it with a couple of other things like presence, discernment, trying to figure out what's working, what's not working. But you started your early career in television. So tell us more about that passion, though, that led to this amazing career in coaching.
Yes, yes. I've had several pivots in my life, Mike. And the first one started at a very young age. I actually was a television reporter, loving it because I was so curious about what made people tick, so curious about getting to the story of whatever was happening in the world. And I think that that transcends then into my curiosity about how to make people the most successful they can be.
And is that within reach for everyone, Mary? I mean, that they can be as successful as they imagine, as they want to be? I mean, how is that within reach for the ordinary folk among us?
I believe it is, Mike, but I think you have to have a plan. People think, oh gosh, how did Mary or Mike get to where they are today? Well, it took intention and it took a strategy and it took a plan to move forward into where we are today. So, very, very important. I believe that people can get to where they want to go and be happy in their lives and their jobs. But, you know, intention and a strategic plan to get you there is really, really helpful.
Boy, intention, there's so much about intention, isn't it? I mean, it informs I think, our leadership actions, the way we interact with others. And often, I encounter folks who are in some sort of transition. They're in a transition from one organization to another. They're stepping into a new role, leading a team. They're experiencing some challenges at work, which they haven't encountered before. Or they're not certain how to handle. And it's often that transition period that really gets us into trouble. But somehow you have found a way to navigate the career transitions in your life and still thrive. And I'm wondering, I mean, I'm just thinking about your career, Mary, is that you've worked with leaders across industries. You're a Marshall Goldsmith coach. You've gone from Fortune 500 companies to startups. What's the most rewarding part of your work?
Gosh, I mean, seeing people recognize their own greatness just lights me up, truly. And we all have greatness within us. It's a matter of tapping into what our natural gifts are, but also this concept of ikigai, which, if you're listening and you don't know this concept, it is the Japanese word that means your reason for being. And it's the intersection of what you're good at, what you love to do, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. So if you can tap into that, you are winning.
Boy, it's so true, I think. And to have this sense of who you are may precede a sense of where I work. Organizations come and go. I'm always fond of the quote by the now deceased British social philosopher Charles Handy, who said that the greatest cause of insecurity among many people is the belief that they have a secure job. In our economy today, organizations come, go. So having this sense of identity, of who you are, must be so fundamental. Yet our experience, our story is often so wrapped up in our organization, isn't it?
It is. And I think especially a certain generation of us who thought, we needed to go work at, XYZ company because of the reputation and that would help us be great and all of that. But what we realize is that we can take those lessons and we can take those skills that we learned at XYZ company and take them to another company and still thrive. So it's really about who we are and what we're doing, the purpose that we bring to our work and to our life versus where we're doing it these days.
Boy, I think that is so true. I think about my own career, and I was always interested in collecting, blue chip companies, Marriott International, Roche, one of the big consulting firms. And, I grew up in the era of Rosabeth Moss Kanter and men and women of the corporation. And what I write about in my own work today is I don't think that stuff works anymore. Because I think that with the advance of the gig economy, with the dawn of a 4-day work week for most people, no matter how they construct it, yet being overworked. I mean, this sense of identity, professional identity, personal identity, what makes you happy, what floats your boat. I mean, that really does seem key to a career experience today. I wonder if you can say more about that, Mary, and, based on your experience and your wisdom.
Yes, I think right now, Mike, people are looking for a sense of purpose. People are looking for a sense of meaning. It is very loud out there. There's a lot of chaos in the world at the moment, and people are kind of hunkering in to create clarity around what it is that's driving them. What is their why? What lights them up? And can they continue to sustain their family and keep the lights on in their house by doing what they love? And kind of just having to cut out all the noise because there is a lot of it right now. And people can even create their own echo chambers in social media these days. So really clarity about where you want to go and how you want to do it is so important right now.
Boy, and I think that's true, particularly given the amount of rejection that occurs, or rejection in its many forms, whether it's direct, you're like you're not qualified, or we have other applicants, or whether you're ghosted. I led a panel a few weeks ago, and one of the speakers on the panel was HR executive from OpenAI, and he used a statistic. The panel was on how AI is changing HR jobs and what it'll do to change jobs in human resources. And he had a statistic which is that today you have to send out something like 1,000 resumes to even get 10 callbacks.
Mm,
Those numbers were just startling to me. I mean,
yeah.
is that your experience too? I mean, guiding so many people. I know you're working at different levels with systems as well as executives, but what's your experience around this, Mary?
Yes. I mean, those numbers are not only startling, but they're staggering, truly, and intimidating for somebody who's out there in the job search market. And so it's funny, I just did a book talk at a local bookstore this morning, and I talked about the fact that, as we talk about your light, if your light is your superpower, your network is the super highway that's going to get you to where you want to go next. So it's so much about leaning into your network now, even more than those blind resume submissions.
Boy, so true. I would just echo your experience. It is all about your ability to power and to network through to that. It used to be, we talked about advancement is based on credentials and experience. And then we said, well, it's really about your ability to learn now. And I think that's not only about your ability to learn, it's about your ability to network. And here's where I want to come on that. I think you've talked about some of the challenges that remote workers face, like
Yes.
promotion hurdles. There isn't the same, around a coffee machine or a water cooler or snack machine. So, how do remote employees stay visible and secure through their career growth?
Absolutely. Well, part of it is about results, right? And that, of course, can happen hybrid, remote, whatever it is, and whatever your KPIs are that you're going after. But nothing compares to that face time. So I would urge the young workers who are working remote to make sure that they can take time for FaceTime and meetings whenever possible. Even if it's meeting at a conference or meeting your boss for coffee or meeting your coworkers for, you know, a beer, whatever that is, making time for FaceTime so that you continue to be top of mind no matter where you're working from.
And how does that apply across the spectrum? So, great advice for younger workers, people early in career, maybe people even in mid career.
Mhm.
I work with a lot of people who are in their 50s, in their 60s. They're at the top of their game. They're leading an organization. They're in the C suite. And then something happens. Company decides on a new direction. Or another event happens, acquired. And then all of a sudden, this person who has a fabulous internal network, knows everybody in their company backwards and forwards, but doesn't have any external network.
Yes,
They
and that is
really feel cooked. Can you
yeah,
talk to that stage, persons at that stage of career as well?
absolutely, because those are a lot of my clients too, Mike. It is imperative to keep that external network and your internal network strong. The internal network allows you to move with grace and fluidity through your organization to get things done, but that external network is so important too. And I urge my clients, even the introverts in the world who are not natural networkers, make it a point to reach out to 5 of your contacts per week, 1 per day. It's not that hard, 1 per day, just a nice, genuine check in. Mike, how are you? How's it going with the podcast world and your books and all of that good stuff? Just really, really staying on top of that external network, no matter what level you're at. And especially these CEOs, because it can get very lonely at the top. Tap into other CEO peer groups and places where you can share in a more vulnerable and real way in order to get to where you want to go next.
Boy, I love what you say. I love the simplicity and the elegance of just reaching out to one person a day. And yet, I know that behaviors that underlie that, I mean, for some people, they're just enormous. So, how can I do that? I haven't talked to them in 20 years. I've talked to them in 10 years. So, it is a set of challenges. And yet, I think this concept that you've mentioned about staying visible,
Mhm.
regardless of where you are in career, whether that's internally, externally, sideways, however you want to think about it, is so important for all of us to succeed in today's economy.
Absolutely. And I talk with clients of all ages about I call it the LinkedIn hour of power, where you sit with your morning cup of coffee or tea or your evening beverage and you just become a student of networking. You're following the companies that you want to follow on LinkedIn. You're following the people who inspire you on LinkedIn and you're seeing what is being sent to your you're basically a curated news feed of all the organizations and people that you want to follow. And when you see things that look interesting, oh, Mike just, released a new podcast. Reach out to Mike and say, Mike, congratulations. How can I help you? Keep it very organic, but don't give up on that because that is the stepping stone to what's next for you. You never know the opportunities. Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that Mary Olson-Menzel appears in my LinkedIn feed every day to get some wisdom and some inspiration because these topics are so important for many of the folks with whom we engage and for all of our listeners who are in human resources or in consulting or leading people and teams in scientific organizations. I think you know the pain and you know the joy that can come with career. And when you see somebody who's a little bit down or some events happen at work, positive and negative, these things make such a difference. And I think the kinds of suggestions, Mary, that you're offering are things that take us out of these doldrums. But you have something you call the 3 Ps. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about those 3 Ps because they're so relevant to our conversation and topic today.
Yes, the 3 Ps are your way of turning your job search intentional and putting a strategy around it. So many people make the mistake. They've been laid off, they've pivoted out for whatever reason it is. Then they sit back and they look on LinkedIn and Indeed and all of those great places. And I'm not saying don't do that. You should absolutely be doing that, looking for the openings. But I want you to be more strategic and create a target list of companies that you want to work for that fall into these 3 categories. One is your usual prospects. Another company that looks like the one that you just worked at, whatever that organization looks like. The next is your pivots. How can I take my existing skill set and pivot them into an organization that maybe isn't in the same industry as mine? And then the last is your passions. And that's where that concept of ikigai, really comes together, where you can actually do what you love and get paid for it. And so when you're putting, organizations in this bucket list of places, then you can start to look and say, okay, from all these companies that I've listed, who am I connected to? Who can help me get an introduction to whatever XYZ company it is?
Boy, that's so good and so helpful and so practical as well. Where I'd like to focus a little bit is that how do we maintain our sense of optimism? If you hear about a slowdown, economic uncertainty, it's so easy to feel discouraged. So,
Mhm.
what's your advice, Mary? Just as one of our last questions, how do people stay optimistic and motivated?
Well, that is a great question, Mike, because it's not always easy. And I'm just saying that to everybody out there. You know what? Give yourself the grace and the space to figure it out, because it is a very confusing time, especially if you haven't looked for a job in a long time. Things have changed. Everything with AI. AI is here to help us and make some parts of our jobs easier, but it also gets very confusing if you don't know how to use it right to your advantage. So, really, truly, I ask people to put together a light log, the moments in time in your day where you feel in the flow, the moments in time in your work where you really feel like you're making a difference and you feel a sense of purpose. Start paying attention to those moments and figure out how you can get more of those. Right? I mean, especially for those of us who are over 50. When I'm coaching clients in their 50s and 60s, I say, where's the joy? Where's the fun? What can you look to do that is going to make more fun in your life? Because a lot of us are not planning on retiring anytime in the near future, no matter how old we are, for various reasons. Why not make our jobs fun?
Boy, so true. And I've had, as I've told some folks, I've had really bad mentors and role models. They've all worked until they've died, or they're still working today. But I think there is a way about how we're thinking about work and what it means. And Mary, just before we wrap up, and I have a final question or so, I wonder, how do people get in touch with you? I mean, I'd love everyone to read your book, What Lights You Up. Um, but how do people get in touch with you? Where do they find you? Where do they find out about your work?
Yes, LinkedIn, obviously. Look me up, connect with me on LinkedIn, tell me that you heard Mike and I chatting, and I'm happy to connect. But also, you can go for all book related and media opportunities, you can go to maryolsonmenzel.com, which is MaryOlsonMenzel.com. And then for the coaching and the leadership work that my team and I do, you can go straight to mvpexec.com, mvpexec.com.
Oh, that's great. And we'll have all of that in the show notes. So if you're on the road or you're listening or just come back, take a look at the show notes and you'll find all the ways to get in touch with Mary Olson Menzel. I mean, where I look her up is I just go to maryolsonmenzel.com. That's a quick way of finding it, or take a look on LinkedIn. Mary, just as we wrap up, I'm wondering, here we are, we're in the first quarter of 2026. We still have a long way ahead of us this year. What's one piece of advice that you can leave my listeners with as they navigate their careers through the remainder of the year? What's that one piece of advice that you can give?
To celebrate the small wins. We're so busy creating goals for what's next. And, especially January, February, first quarter is always that time where I encourage people to reflect and create goals and strategies for the success of the rest of the year. But what we forget is to celebrate the wins along the way. And that makes all the difference in our work because we can get excited about things as they happen. We can enjoy the journey and we can get our team excited to follow us as well.
Mary, you are full of inspiration, and you must be a wonder in your speaking engagements and with your clients because clearly you bring to bear that first part of your book title, What Lights You Up. You are an inspiration to all of us. So thank you so much for being a guest on the People Dividend podcast.
Thank you, Mike. Great to be here.
Thank you. And until the next episode, but in the meantime, drop a like, drop a listen. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave a comment. And until the next episode, stay well.